Hey everyone, Robyn Openshaw. I'm sorry it's been a little while, but what I like to do here is just give you bite-sized chunks to help you understand Bitcoin better. And I really want to invite you into our Wednesday night classes because it's an interactive community where you're going to get that deeper conviction about what Bitcoin is, what role it plays in your life. What do you want to do with Bitcoin? Okay. Nobody is saying anymore that it's a Beanie Babies or a Ponzi scheme. We have all sat here and watched it for 16 years go from a fraction of a penny to, as I'm recording this, $120,000. So pretty much everybody would like to get in on the highest performing asset in the world. But what I want to talk to you about today is self-custodying it versus other ways of custodying it. And actually, that's more like a 90-minute conversation. That is what our Wednesday night classes are all about. But I do just want to at least touch on what some of your options are. Because when I got into Bitcoin in March of 2020, I wasn't getting into it for the number go up thing. At the time, Bitcoin was a lot riskier than it is now. And I spent an amount of money in March of 2020 that was more appropriate given the risk level at the time. So they say you get the price that you deserve. I would say that that applies to me. I am proud to say that I started buying Bitcoin at $8,000. But if I'm being honest with you, I've been buying all the way up. And right now I have a chunk of money free, and I'm going to tell you exactly where I've custodied it. It's not going into my cold wallet, which is where I self-custody some of my Bitcoin. But for the same reason that I sold my gold and put it into Bitcoin, I didn't want to have custodial issues where I feel like if I leave my house is exposed, someone could break in, someone could take it. I think that there's also a time and a place for someone else besides you being the custodian. That said, we showed last week in our Wednesday night class, we showed a fierce debate between people who believe very strongly that we should stop forcing everybody into this hold it on a cold wallet thing, self-custody your Bitcoin. The whole point was to have your Bitcoin outside the banks because, for instance, the big beautiful bill just passed. A part of it was spending $3.4 trillion. Okay. Back in, what was it, 2007, when Obama bailed out the banks, people were screaming over a $1 trillion bailout. That was insane at the time. But right now, the spending bill that just got passed, it's not the only spending bill in front of the legislature in this session, but they passed a $3.4 trillion spending bill, and both sides of the aisle came together to do that. Nothing stops this train. The United States is going to keep printing money. There is nothing that is going to keep them from debasing your money so that it's worth less and less and less. They are going to save the pension system over keeping your inflation low. So if you believe that this money printing is causing the inflation that we've seen, I mean, you can make a case that maybe inflation will go up slower than you think. You could make the case that maybe in your whole lifetime we'll just be seeing 2 and 3% inflation. You can make these cases, and I have heard plenty of experts do so, but our money is being debased. And if you've decided, I at least want some exposure to Bitcoin, you can do what I did starting in March of 2020, which is you can buy some Bitcoin on an exchange. Okay, the ones I use are Uphold and Coinbase. We don't have a ton of transparency about whether these companies are doing anything weird with our money. While your Bitcoin is being held on these exchanges, we don't have, that peace of mind of knowing that we actually hold our Bitcoin because they do, because Uphold does, or because Coinbase does. So I have some on both exchanges right now that I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to put them yet, whether I'm going to put them on one of my cold wallets or whether I'm going to have River custody it for me. So the Bitcoin that I am currently buying. So yes, I started buying at $8,000. I'm still buying. I know right now I'm sitting on a chunk of change that came out of a piece of real estate. that I am deciding what to do with it, but what's clear is that I am going to have a company called River custody it. One of the reasons that I chose them is that they've been in the space longer than most others. It's only 6 years, but in Bitcoin years, that's like being a dinosaur. That's like 100 years in Bitcoin years. So River has been super transparent. They publish how much Bitcoin they have on a ledger. They don't have to. They're a private company. So you do have third-party risk, and the third party is River. But I've never heard anybody say anything bad about them, including their competitors. There's been no lawsuits. They're very much in the black. The amount that they publish of the Bitcoin that they have, that they're holding, is much higher than their assets under management, the Bitcoin that they're holding for their clients like me. But another reason, besides their reputation and their having been around for about 6 years, is that they're not doing weird stuff with your money. They won't lend against it. They won't go and invest your money and pay you interest on it or some kind of staking fee. I think all of that's sketchy. I think that's just copying the fractional reserve lending system or model that we don't like, that's been going on in the banks, that has spun out of control, and the whole thing has become a big corrupt mess. That's a lot of why we're in Bitcoin, right? Is trying to get away from that stuff. So River is super conservative. Another reason why I'm at River is that right now I don't want to buy at $120,000. I am going to roll the dice, and I am going to wait for when some black swan brings the price down. I'm deciding when I'm going to buy. Okay, will I buy at 110,000? Will I buy at 101,000? Will I really roll the dice and hope that it goes down to 85,000? Still considering those options. I don't have a crystal ball. Anybody who tells you that they do or that they know what's going to happen is probably basing their decisions on past performance of Bitcoin, which I think has only so much value since Bitcoin's only been around for 16 years. And things are changing rapidly with Bitcoin. Okay, it's new in the last year and a half that there are ETFs, there are 11 banks with electronically traded funds that you can invest in with Bitcoin. So that's another thing you can do. I'm a huge fan of getting your store of value outside of the system where it's being debased. So that's what I was in it for in the beginning. And so, of course, I was going to get a cold wallet, and I was going to hold my own Bitcoin, and I was going to start thinking about how I'm going to hold these 12 seed phrases so that they are highly secure and nobody can break into my house and hold a gun to my head or kidnap one of my kids and, have it there for my heirs when I die. So that was important to me. That was more of interest to me than the whole number go up thing and the people who are waiting to get rich from Bitcoin. Okay, those people exist too. The people who are like, dang it, I've missed out on 16 years of this being the highest performing asset in the world. Nothing else even close. No stock market, no ETF, no gold, silver, no real estate. Nothing has performed as well as Bitcoin has. And so the debate that we shared in class last week was, on the one hand, Simon Dixon arguing, you got to have it on a cold wallet. Yes, it's more work, but that's like the point, is getting your store of value outside the system when corrupt entities are debasing your dollars and printing more and exporting more. Even stable coins, that the US government just passed a stablecoin bill called the Genius Act. It's just going to allow the dollar to last longer, but it's not going to stop your dollars from being debased. So the other argument was, stop making it so difficult for people to get exposure to Bitcoin. Some people just want to get in on the number go up. And for those people, buying one of the ETFs or buying Michael Saylor's products, he has 4 of them at his company called Strategy, might be the right move. I personally think the people who saw the biggest gains have already been in it for a while, and number can go way up, and it has, like, by a couple thousand%, but that number can come down too. So it's not a place that I'm personally investing. But right now my money is at River for, drum roll, I didn't say this part, they also collaborate with a bank so that my money is being invested and paying me 3.8%, while I wait for when I'm going to buy Bitcoin and then have them custody it. So their employees can't tell you much about how exactly they custody the Bitcoin, except that it's in multiple locations, probably more than 3, probably more like 5. There's Faraday cages involved. There's hardware. It's being very carefully monitored and guarded. So there is a third party involved in how I'm going to custody some of my Bitcoin at River. But I'll put a link down below so that you can, if you want to check it out at River, you can email my contact there. Her name's Lindsay, and she's fantastic. lindsay.faust, F-A-U-S-T, at river.com. And get yourself set up there. My next video is going to be about dollar cost averaging. Okay. What I do is when I have a chunk of money come available, I strategize how I'm going to spend that money and how I'm going to put it in Bitcoin and where I'm going to store it. And so we've kind of covered those options. You can do the cold storage thing where you are literally not, there's no third party involved and you have removed all third party risk. But now the risk is on you. So you have to ask yourself, do you trust yourself? That brings up its own whole set of questions, doesn't it? Or are you just wanting to get in on the upside of Bitcoin? And if so, maybe buying into one of the big banks ETFs is for you. Okay. So when I was in Switzerland running my annual retreat there, I had several of our attendees who were seniors who said, yeah, we bought some Bitcoin. Our financial advisor bought it for us. And I said, then you don't own Bitcoin. You own shares in an ETF. And she said, and one of these ladies said, no, I own it. And this gentleman bought it for us. And I was like, no gentleman is going to buy it for you. You could buy shares in an ETF and then you have exposure to the Bitcoin. And when it goes up, then you win in dollars. But a guy can't buy you Bitcoin. That's not how it works. So anyways, I said, I hope that you'll write him. I know you just said you trust him, but I hope you'll write him and say, how exactly do I own this Bitcoin? She came back with, yes, he bought us into the ETFs. So good for her financial advisor. My financial advisor is super anti-Bitcoin, as far as I know to this day. That's why he doesn't actually invest very much of my money. Anyway, he invests maybe 5% of my portfolio, and I have chosen him because he's so conservative and he sees all the same landmines in the economy, which is probably you too, which brings you to this channel, is you're probably more aware than most of the people around you of how fraught this economy is. So anyways, those are some thoughts about Bitcoin that you custody yourself and completely remove from any third-party risk, or you have a variety of options in getting exposure to Bitcoin and getting in on the number go up without actually custodying any or owning any yourself. So those are the big things to think through. We love to help you on Wednesday nights. We watch the chat, we answer questions. I have other coaches come on and help me teach, and we keep you current in what is going on in Bitcoin. I swear I can't even remember the last week that there wasn't tons of stuff. This is the most rapidly evolving, fast adopting technology in the history of technology. It's being adopted faster than the internet is. So get yourself some, get in with us, but you're not going to buy Bitcoin and hold it for the long term and watch it hit $1 million unless you start learning. You're going to have to spend the time learning, or else you're just not going to have the conviction to be one of the new mega millionaires or even billionaires who sit there with it and watch it. I mean, it's already gone from a fraction of a penny to $120,000. Going from $120,000 to $1 million is nothing compared to where Bitcoin's already been. So if you want to learn with us, you're going to have to gain your own conviction. You're going to have to learn with us. We try to make that way easier than it was for me when I started learning 6 years ago. So join us down below. Use the coupon code ROBYN, ROBYN, for an extra $50 off, and it gives you a 3rd month free. So join our mastermind. Just start showing up on Wednesday nights with us. And so this has been a little bit long, but I'm going to do another video on what dollar cost averaging is as another way. Instead of buying chunks at a time like I have done, some people are just with every paycheck, maybe they're investing $50 or $20 or $100 or whatever you can. and just start. They call it stacking sats. Okay, sats are satoshis. They are the infinitely divisible units that comprise a Bitcoin. There will probably come a day when there's 100,000 satoshis in a Bitcoin, or maybe more, maybe 1,000,000 satoshis. It is infinitely divisible. So hope we see you on Wednesday night and you start learning with us. For instance, tomorrow night, our class is on 11 things that beginners need to either do or know to get started with Bitcoin. So these are the kinds of topics that we teach on. Hope you join us in the link down below. And River is a good place to custody if you don't want to trust yourself. But we also offer private coaching with a coach who can help you get set up buying your own cold wallet and holding your own Bitcoin. Okay, we are always going to recommend that. That's just thing number one. It's not for everybody. If somebody's 80, that's probably not for them. But for everybody else, we hope you do it. Okay, so hope to see you on Wednesday night. Bye, everyone.